Hello and welcome to First Crack. Round 17 is complete and there are headaches for Fremantle. The Swans are back and the Mighty Crows remain in the top 200. We'll have a good look at the Pies and the Dogs as well. My name is Jay Clark. Lots on the agenda with this man is the two-time premiership star. Hello, David King.
Hello, Jay. Joey.
Two-time All-Australian dominated St Kilda on a wing for a very long time. Leigh Montagna, hello to you, Joey. The ladder is quite remarkable, Joey, after the results today. Sydney 11-point winners over the Dockers and Adelaide by 13 points over the Demons. But look, there's only 4 points separating 8th there to 30.
Well, ninth to third. One game separates the teams there. And it was a weekend where we had the top 9 play, the bottom 9. All the favourites won. So almost all the top 9 won, but Sydney were favourites against Fremantle. They got the job done. So all it's done is made it really compact. But King, next week is the round that is going to sort it out because 8 of the top 9 teams play against each other. Wow. And that is going to start to really sort it out. So we will have a much better idea next week. But yeah, still anyone can finish third out of those teams and anyone can miss the 8. That is actually how close it is.
17 games now against the top 9 play each other. They're the only ones that really matter in terms of sourcing this, and we'll show exactly why later. Because the top 9 really don't lose to the bottom 9. They very rarely lose to them, and we'll talk about the ramifications when you do.
Brisbane is the only team this round that avoids playing against the whole group of 9. They play Carlton. The rest of those teams in the top 9 play against one of the other sides.
We'll turn the page. There is a significant gap to the rest, though. I think it's a 3-game gap, 12 points to the 10th position. So for the wildcard round theorists, do you think this supports the argument to bring one in or defeats it a little bit? Because there is a significant class gap between 9th and 10th.
I do in this situation because teams from 10 to 18 need something to play for. Otherwise, right now, what are you really, what are you playing for in regards to, you're trying to build culture and those things, but in regards to wins and where you want to finish, to be honest, the reality is the lower you finish, the better chance you've got of improving next year because you get a higher quality draft pick. And in a draft this year that is so compromised, every spot up the ladder that you climb is probably going 2 spots back in the draft. So that could be the difference between pick 4 or pick 8, depending on where you end up. So I think maybe this year it has.
It's been the case for 100 years.
But last year there were 13 teams still in the mix for the finals. This year we've only got 9.
Let's have a race for 10th to be the first loser.
At least you've still got something to play for. We don't think the team that finishes 10th is going to win the flag, but at least...
Well, why do it? Why distort the final series for something that's inconsequential and a nonsense?
Because 8th v 9th would be a good game.
Carlton does look...
OK, let's shift the whole thing for 8th v 9th.
I'm a fan of the wild card.
A long way off in the 12th position at the moment. Righto, David King, you're in a fiery mood. I'm going to start with you. It's your first crack.
Well, I'm not really. I just think 2026, the best job in football is coaching Fremantle. I look at their list, I look at where they're at, I look at the opportunities in front of this footy club, and I don't know if that's going to be Justin Longmuir anymore. I really don't. I think that he has to play finals this year in his 6th season to show that he is the man. And all the evidence put before us, you have to question. He's gone 7 wins, 10 wins, 13.5 and a finals opportunity, back to 10, 12.5 and now sits on 10 and probably will get to 13. But 13 is not going to be enough. So he's going to have to win against Hawthorn this week or Collingwood the week after or find a way to get up against the Dogs in the last game of the year on the road. And that's it. That's the reality for me.
What's your knock?
Well, everyone says they're a young team. I think that's a nonsense. I think when you look at that team today, they had 3 players under 22 years of age. So they might be inexperienced with games with some guys, but once you get to 100 games, is there a difference between 100 and 120 games? Does that make you a far better pro because you've played another dozen games or 20 games? I don't really think so. So I don't give them the outs that others give. When you've got Tracy, Bolton and Reed, who's probably going to be one of the favourites for the rising star in your forward line, your midfield's stacked. Jackson, we've talked about for half the year as being the best ruckman in the competition. Serong, Brayshaw, I know that Young's out there. He's in an absence at the moment, which is a concern. But the way they play, for me, leaves them vulnerable against every team. They've lost more games to bottom 10 teams than anyone else. 6 and 4, top 9 versus bottom 9. They've had 10 games against the poorer teams in the competition, which is the most in the AFL.
Why is that? What's the issue with the style?
I just think they play a slow brand of footy. They play a different brand of footy. Every team has nuance. Every team has a point of difference. And there's the top 9 versus the bottom 9. The good teams just really don't lose to them. They really don't. It's, I think, 33 and 3. Something like that. 32 and 3. So that's since round 10. So you just got to tick those games off. And Fremantle don't tick them off. It's as simple as that. And this is why they find themselves out of the 8. And I think when you look at why they're there, it has to come back, not to the magnets for me, to the man at the top. Is he the guy to take them all the way to a premiership? 6th year, I have my doubts. I've had my doubts for a while, and I just think if you miss finals, we're not talking about winning the thing, we're talking about missing finals now. So I'm right under the hammer with this. They've been rebuilding for the best part of a decade. Last couple of years of Ross and the full 6 years of this guy. I reckon he's under the most pressure in the AFL right now. He's on a contract that didn't give him any confidence. They've talked about being a top 4 team in the pre-season. Even he, if you listen to him today talk, and we'll take a quick snapshot of what he said in the post-match, he's still talking about top 4.
To live in the moment. No, it wasn't as though we were going to go through the rest of the season and not lose. Probably hoping that, but it's a bit unrealistic. Loss was going to come. We will review it the same as what we reviewed our 6 wins. Get better. Try and beat Hawthorn next week. We're on the same. I don't know. I haven't looked at the ladder since the game, but I'd imagine we're a game out of the 4 or equal with someone in the 4. Like it's. We lost the game. We're not out of it. Keep fighting.
So that's him saying that he's still comparing them to the top 4. So that's where they see themselves. So if you miss the 8, that's a disaster. They've had the luxury of the extra home game this year that the Kangaroos sold to Western Australia. So I just think this is it. Find out whether this guy's your man. If he's not, rip the Band-Aid off and go again. Find the guy that is going to take you there, because this club's meandered for a fair while.
Because for Fremantle fans, what is the pass score? What is the expectation? You think they've got a list to be top 4, to go all the way? How good should Fremantle be?
Well, this list, when they got Bolton...
Lacks nothing.
When they got Bolton, everyone said, no, they're ripe now. They're ripe to go. And that's not to win the flag. We're talking about making the 8 now.
Yeah. I
mean, that's watering expectation down far too low. So I think the heat's on him. Accept the challenge and go and get the job done. If your game plan stacks up against the good teams, well, we'll find out in the next couple of weeks.
So the Hawthorn game coming up this week is going to be one of the biggest games for the football club in a long time. And can they handle the expectation and the pressure that comes with playing in a game that's going to mean so much?
Well, they didn't last year. There's the last 4 games of last year. They can't afford a repeat of that, or I think there'll be big decisions made at the end of the season.
So Sydney 11-point winners over the Dockers. The Swans are back with some of their best players back in the fold. It was an impressive performance from the Swans, and you've had a look at the stoppage battle.
Yeah, the clearance game dominated, and that is now becoming a bit of a theme for Fremantle. When they get beaten around clearance, then what else do they have? Because they got smashed in that facet today, and when they've lost that, they've lost 5 of their 8 games when they've lost the clearance battle. And today, Sydney absolutely dominated them around the contest. So that was clearly their best result for the year. For the Swans, it was Fremantle's worst return scores from stoppage since 2019. They got absolutely pantsed around there. And Grundy was brilliant. And now everybody always then turns to, with the stoppages, well, the 2 rucks, how did it pan out? So if we take a look today at how it went, well, when this is Grundy. So when Grundy was going up against Sean Darcy, he lost the clearance battle by 2. But when Grundy went up against Luke Jackson, they won it by 12. So they got their dominance there. And this was very similar numbers to last week that you showed with Rowan Marshall. Rowan Marshall, the first possession was plus 16 against Luke Jackson, but broke even against Sean Darcy. So I think this continues to show why Fremantle understand they need the 2 rucks, and Luke Jackson going up against the bigger ruckman probably hasn't been able to match them in the hit-outs, which is such an important facet. And as we said, the clearance game, Sydney dominated, particularly out of centre bounce. They kicked 5 goals from centre bounce. We know the SCG is a centre bounce ground, and it just gave them so much ascendancy. So Fremantle only scored twice from stoppage for the whole game, and they were both in the last quarter when they were trying to take the game on and win it. Otherwise, it was absolute annihilation in there. Brodie Grundy had 12 clearances himself. The rest of the big 3, Goulden, Warner, Heaney, had 15 between them. And they got the better of Fremantle. And as I said, Fremantle have probably shown if their clearance game gets taken away from them, they are a bit more vulnerable. You know, can they rely on their sort of counter-attack game? They're able to score from turnover, but it was just there were no chance. And they split the ruck time, 70 minutes to Sean Darcy, 50 minutes to Luke Jackson. Darcy had the 6 clearances, Jackson just the 1, but that was a very disappointing performance.
You have to admire Grundy. I mean, his story, booted from Collingwood a couple of years ago in the 2s at Melbourne, a fresh start at Sydney. Sydney. Slow start this season, but now looks like one of the form ruckmen of the competition in particular. But you mentioned Carlton's struggles inside the stoppage. It was James Jordan who really put the clamps on Caleb Serong.
Yeah, I think he suffers from tagophobia, our man Caleb Serong. He's too often got, and Jordan's got him a couple of times now. And if you have a look at the way that it happens, I mean, season low clearances, I mean, he's never had a game like that. One clearance.
Yeah, wow.
So when he's tagged, his game just falls apart. We saw it for 3 quarters last week, and he broke clear in the last. You've got to do the job. You're a leader of this football club. You're being tagged. You've got a responsibility when Sydney win the ball to do the job against your tag, your direct opponent. This is the second of his goals in the second term. Like, that's embarrassing. And the Swans knew it. They went after him. Where are the rest? We keep talking about this. If this is Collingwood, Nick Dacos doesn't play against the tagger. The team play against the tagger. Serong played against the tagger today. There was very little help, and especially in a moment like that. That's when you need the support, because you know it can get on top of you. Oh, I think he's got a problem that he has to really address. It's been a few times this year that he's been clamped. If he is to be that player and they are to go somewhere, they've all got to buy into him being tagged. And these are the small things that just go on the pile with Fremantle.
Well, he could be a Brownlow medal winner, Caleb Serong, let's be honest. But if that's the blueprint in the run home, you'd think other teams, as you say, are going to copy it and do.
Yep. He's got an awful back half of the year coming now.
It's going to be a big run home for the Dockers. Now, the Swans, great to see some big names back with Mills, Heaney in particular, and Errol Goulden, but they lost another one today, and that was Tommy Papley. So Time for Health is your best player thanks to HBF Health Insurance. And Papley, so important in the Sydney side, has done his hamstring, so he's going to be out for another period. Geez, they've had a terrible run. You can see him pull up. He was absolutely shattered on the bench. Adds so much to that forward half, Tom Papley. So hopefully he can get back before the last game of the season. But he's disappointed there.
Eddie, it just shows when you have injury interrupted seasons that it's so hard to get going and get the continuity. The competition demands so much of you. If you haven't had the big solid pre-season base, if you haven't had a good run, it's hard. It is tough. We've seen a lot of recurrence of injuries, and unfortunately for Tom Papley, it's probably just going to be one of those years for him.
Since round 10, they've only had 9 players play all games, and that's the lowest in the comp. So it has to hurt. It has to get you at certain patches of the year. They've responded really well, Sydney. Credit to them.
Big weekend for hamstring injuries too. Righto, Joey, what's your first crack?
Well, I was at Marvel Stadium last night, St Kilda Hawthorn, and I want to say that I don't think there has been a bigger contract call in St Kilda since Tony Lockett asked for a trade in 1994. That's how significant and important Wanganeen-Milera is to the success of this football club.
A big call,
because,
Joey.
well, you don't get many talents like him walk through the door. I mean, we probably haven't seen him at St Kilda since Nick Riewoldt 25 years ago. And if he does choose to go to another club or ask for a trade, it is going to set this rebuild back 5 to 10 years. To be able to have a player of his calibre, and the reason why is watching him last night, he's just more than an exciting, talented halfback flanker. I think he can be one of the best midfielders in the competition and follow a path of Jordan Dawson and Ed Richards, Hayden Young, and in recent times, Miles Bergman, to become this exceptionally talented midfield player. And I think that they've got to explore the ceiling over the next 6 to 7 weeks of the season and find out what he is capable of. And this was Ross Lyon talking about that exact situation post-game.
We know he's got half-back, we know he's got mid, and I think he can do a bit of forward stuff. So, yeah, we've got a long-term plan that he becomes great. Not just a great half-back, but there'll be moments and times and over a period of time.
So the midfield gun has evolved from being the big-bodied Petrarca, Cripps, Dangerfield to now the fleet-footed guys that have got the ability to change angles, use their speed and break lines. And if you look at Wanganeen-Milera, so if you take the 100 times where you took at the minute, so anyone that's played 200 minutes as a midfielder this year, he ranks 18th in the competition as a midfielder. That was before last night's fourth quarter.
43 touches.
Where he was absolutely brilliant. We take a look at some of the vision of his last quarter. Last night. So they moved him in there to try and win the game. He had 15 disposals. He had 6 contested. He had inside 50s. He had 6 score involvements alone in the final quarter. Now, he averages 6 a game, which is a big number for a halfback flanker. But I just wonder what he can do for this group if he plays more midfield minutes and actually can come out the front. And everything I saw, there's no reason why he can't be a permanent inside mid because he's clean, he can win clearance, and he's got that ability to try and set up some play. And I just think you can find another halfback flanker. Like, they're very lucky they've already got Jack Sinclair playing as a halfback, but you can move Hunter Clark or you can play Travalia, some other guys there, but they're looking for their midfield superstar, Jay. So they've tried, Davies Uniacke and tried Callaghan, and they had a bit of a flirt at Matt Rowell. Well, maybe this guy's right under their nose. Why can't he be the elite A-grade midfielder that can set them up for the next 10 years. King, I know you've been big on this, King. You were banging on about it. You were banging on it last year.
Mate, they've been slow to this.
And it's taken a while. But if you can get a player come out the front of stoppage like this, why do they not explore it more?
Absolutely right. I think they've been really slow to this, and I just hope it doesn't cost them the player. I mean, if Sydney had tried Jordan Dawson in the role he's playing now, would he still be there? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the players get excited by their own form and their own role and the coach's faith in that role. So it's a great conversation. It's a huge signature. There's no doubt about that.
Massive.
And they've whinged a lot about what the landscape's doing, St Kilda. We've heard the president. We've heard the coach. They can't afford to lose this one. For all the whinging that they've done about father-sons and academies, look after your own backyard first.
If he does request a trade, if you go there, I think it'd be almost an impossible deal because if Melbourne want 3 first-round picks for Kasai Pickett, Kasai Wanganeen-Milera is, if not a better player.
Out of contract. They generally get done if he requests to leave.
One of your teammates got sent into the draft. Luke Ball got sent in the draft when
he got to where he wanted to get to.
When St Kilda played hardball. I think this would be a feisty negotiation and a very difficult one if it got to that. Because
it won't get to that, surely.
If it was Port Adelaide, they don't even have a first-round pick. They'd want 3 Ross lines. So
will he stay? Will Nasai beat St Kilda?
I think he's more likely to stay than leave on a deal that could be 1.2 plus incentives, 1.3, 1.4 potentially, if he has big seasons.
But in the meantime, he's giving every St Kilda supporter grey hair, so we just hope that he can hurry up and sign that dotted line.
Do you think he'll be there?
I think he will, yes. I think he'll stay.
I reckon if we don't have a decision by the end of the week, if not a fortnight, I reckon that's a sign that he wants to get out. I reckon these next 10 days are absolutely critical for...
Tough 14 days for the Saints. Ruined their week.
Valera, I like yours, Joey. Time for my first crack, and I'm having a look at the kennel because the coach, Luke Beveridge, has one of his biggest selection calls, or his biggest of the season, as he weighs up playing a third key defender for the first time against Adelaide. So the Crows have got, it's Air Adelaide, you called him Kingy, so it's the 3-headed monster with Thilthorpe, Taylor Walker and Darcy Fogarty. So if he's going to play a third key defender and potentially Liam Jones, so it's a case of head versus the heart at the selection table, then this will be the week that he brings back Liam Jones. We haven't seen him since round 6. He's been playing in the VFL, better now after some back grumbles, but is he going to go for the head? And that's Buku Karmas, that's Jed Buslinger, who, to be honest...
He played Gardner as well.
He played Gardner against Hawthorn, exactly.
Shouldn't have.
and Buslinger, to be honest, I mean, this is a key position player. So this is the game against North Melbourne. So Nick Larkin was able to get out of the back. So one-on-one, the Dogs defenders, and that's O'Donnell and Rory Lobb, have been vulnerable at times. So it's the missing link. It's the one flaw in this Bulldogs side that they can get done like this, because in the midfield and up forward, they're brilliant. They can score for days, but they can also get scored on. So does Bevo have a look at this defensive structure? That's Finbar Maley taking a great hanger. So head, Joey, do you think Buku Karmas or Jed Buslinger, or the heart and the romantic in Liam Jones? One-on-one, what do you think he goes for?
I think you give Liam Jones one more crack. Find out, yeah. I know he was tapering a bit the back end of last year, start of this year. I'd go back to him, see if he's got it in him, and if not, I'd go back to Buku Karmas. I don't think the Lobb O'Donnell combination is going to be good enough to win a premiership against the best offensive teams in the competition. And these are the numbers that are stacking up. So their one-on-one contest rate, so out of the top 50 players that have been in defensive one-on-ones, O'Donnell ranks 47th for losing one-on-one contests. Rory Lobb's dropped to 32nd for losing one-on-one contests. Rory Lobb wins more than James O'Donnell, but he gets beaten as well.
Jones is not going to change that, though, is he?
He's probably not, no. But what
do you do?
Does it just allow that, there's a bit of the shuffle effect? Can Jones just anchor at fullback, a bit like Barras?
He can save you 2 or 3 goals
and maybe allow the others a bit more freedom. That's my big issue.
I think they've got to pull back their offence.
Well,
they've got to slow things down a little.
And this is why it's important, King, and this is to the point about why your defence needs to be rock solid. Because against the bottom 9 teams, the reason why it's not troubling them is because they are plus 17 inside 50 differential, dominating. But what happens when you play against the top 9 teams? You break even. That's going to be... So in finals, you're not going to have dominance inside your forward 50. You are going to have to defend a lot of ball because you're playing against other great teams. Is your back 6 good enough to hold up against great offences? They've shown for the majority of this year it's not. So it's something they've still got time, but they haven't rectified it. In the last 2 games, despite winning, Sydney and North Melbourne were able to score a bit too easily for a team that have aspirations to be...
Can I give you a curveball?
Yeah.
Can they attack their way to a flag? Can they go full-out offence with the star factor players they've got in the middle and forward and attack themselves? shootout style.
Does it stand up
to a
on grand
flag.
final?
It defies history.
I don't. Well, Malcolm Blight would say yes.
Yeah.
Like, there's periods across the journey where you'd say yes.
Yep.
Only have to do it for a 4-week patch.
Yep.
Do you think that's in the back of their mind?
I don't think
they know those numbers.
Yeah, I don't think defensively you can hold up 4 weeks in a row against the best opposition and expect to win.
But then I don't think they're going to be able to defend
so
themselves.
You just think John
I think they've only got one way to go.
They'll defy the last 20 years. Every Premier in the last 20 years been top 6. Maybe they can.
Understand.
History records are there to be.
They haven't got someone that's going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
That's the issue, isn't it?
Bit like-
they have. It's Norton, but they don't want to move him.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Happy Gilmore. If you wonder what works, you may as well run up to it.
Exactly right.
Hit it as long as you can. Right, let's have a look at the game today. Adelaide versus Melbourne. Melbourne very good out of the blocks early, but your man, then David King, took over.
Oh, he's a beauty to watch, isn't he, Isaac? But his new role, he's pretty much playing permanent forward. I mean, he went in for half a dozen centre bounces today, but this is where Matty Nicks wants to play him, which is
forward.
One, I think he's looking at him as a forward. We've seen the injury to Rochelle, which we'll have to keep our eye on because that'll affect Ryzak's role in this team, no doubt. I still think maybe he's managing him through the season and not running the risk of just pumping midfield minutes into him game on game. This is what he does better than any other player in the competition.
So prelim night, if they're in it, where do you think he plays?
If Rochelle's not there, I think he's playing forward.
Yep.
If Rochelle's there, I think he's 50-50 on ball forward and just ripping the joint to bits.
I think today was a good look. Today was a look forward, come up to stoppage. He brought up his opponent. Judd McVie was going with him. He can come up, create some havoc. He can spit out. He can stay forward. I think they can use him however they like, starting as a forward and bringing him up.
Jordan Dawson might win the Brownlow and the best and fairest, but I feel in September, Isaac Rankin is the one who looms large. He could be the match winner in finals. It tested Melbourne's defence, of course. How did they stack up?
Well, they held up pretty well, particularly in the first half. Adelaide almost kicked themselves out of it, didn't they, Kingy, watching this? I mean, we've lauded their ball use and their ball movement for the majority of the year, but for whatever reason, the disconnect between the mids and the forwards was on display, and Melbourne were just feasting. They had 10 intercept marks in their defensive 50. Kingy at half-time, which I think was the most ever, and they finished with 16, which is the most by any team this season. So credit to Melbourne. Lever back in the team. May looks somewhere back to the Stephen May that we know, not the May that we've seen over the last month. And they look pretty good. They just couldn't sustain it, Melbourne, and Adelaide rode it to fix those problems and chip away, but it was an issue early.
If you're going to play three talls, you can't have intercept marks to that volume. No. You can't. I mean, Thilthorpe was a non-factor for most of the day. Walker got outmarked by May a lot early. So I think there's a lot to address from a Crows point of view. Good to get the win and get the lesson as well, but there's a lot of improvement on the back of today.
Could he think twice, Matty Nicks, on the structure, or does he stick with it?
Well, he's probably going to stick with it, but he'd be really disappointed that they were able to be picked apart like that down back.
Big game against the Western Bulldogs on Saturday afternoon. Well, on Monday night, always a big night of Tally AFL 360. It's Jared and Gary, of course, and then on the couch, Jason. Coming up, Dean Cox and Brad Scott with Jared and Gary. And then on the couch, you're hosting, Joey. You got a special guest at Steel Side Bottom, the Collingwood legend. Can't wait for all that. It starts 6:30 Monday night on Fox Footy.
Yeah, we're really pleased with that performance. Yeah, we just talked internally about, we set a goal at the start of the year to qualify for the finals, and we can officially say that we got 14 wins and we do that. Not in our wildest dreams we'd ever think we'd have that at this time of year. I mean, this is such a tight competition, so we wanted to celebrate that. We have a deep win on that. But yeah, I was just wrapped tonight with our system against a team with their backs against the wall.
Nick Dacos is going to savour it and pump it home. Don't give the little champ space like that.
We grew up with third quarter designated as the premiership quarter, and it was Carlton that had that mantle. Collingwood are making it their own with miracle kicks like that. That is an 8-goal third term.
It's just magnificent Collingwood. That's what it is. And again, the forwards to get a look. Membry's the front flyer. Underneath Long. Squirted the kick to goal. They can do no wrong.
Every other player got over the Mine Checks and just celebrated the final goal of the match.
No mercy on a wounded foe from these Magpies. A 14th win for the season for Collingwood. And on the 4th of July, they are the first team to plant their flag in September.
It was a big win, brutal performance from the Pies, 56-point winners over the Blues. Will continue to be a big story. Michael Voss wasn't happy at three-quarter time with his leaders. Will continue to follow Carlton. And they've got to turn their fortunes around if they can before the end of the season. But the Pies were brilliant with the ball in hand, King.
Just want to have a look at their forward mix. I don't think we talk enough about the diversity and what they offer, in terms of being able to do it in the air, being able to do it on the ground. I think the biggest factor for me, when you look at assessing the health of your system, is looking at how many goal kickers you have on average or week to week. So the last 4 weeks they've had 10, 11, 10 and 9, most in the competition. And that's just a great sign that you've probably got your turnover game in pretty good order. You've been able to mark the ball best in the competition, and you're flying when you go in and you're converting. All these guys kick it well, mark it well, tackle, crumb, and cover the ground. They don't have the big bopper that can't really move. They don't have a small forward that doesn't have any speed. They don't have tools that refuse to chase. They all buy in, and that's why I think, even though they play a little bit slow at times, they can get away with it because they do all things. They're the master of all trades. They don't just have one function in the team, Joey. So I think when we look at Collingwood's forward line, we've got to look at it a little bit different than what we do with others.
Yeah, and it's an area they've really improved on, and what they can do really well is they can all mark the footy.
Yeah.
So if you just looked at the general stats from the game the other night, you see contested possession -18, and everyone thinks that's ground ball. In fact, Carlton broke even with Collingwood in the ground ball. What that stat was all contested marks. They were +15 contested marks. And you look over the last month, they have really skyrocketed that facet of the game. So over the last month, Darcy Cameron, Darcy Moore, Mycheck, McStay, all in the top 10 in the competition for contested marks. That doesn't include Jamie Elliott and Jeremy Howe, that we know can also take marks. So they dominate. Even Nick Dacos took 2 contested marks in this game. But as I said, the +15 contested mark differential was the best result ever for Collingwood on record in history.
Wow.
Was how much they dominated. And they were doing it at both ends of the field. So defensively, they were too good for the Carlton forwards. In front of the ball, they were able to do it. We know Cameron likes to get behind the play. But some of those long down the line plays you show, if you can take a contested mark there, that's worth 2 or 3 ground balls to be able to then get the game on your terms, set up and get the next facet going. So it's been a real feature of the Pies lately.
Bobby Hill, the Norm Smith medalist, still to come into this team too at Collingwood, another weapon for their forward half. How do they like to use the ball, King?
Well, we've seen them go slow and seen them do the point and long down the line sort of stuff over the previous month. And if you look at round 12 against Hawthorn, was well below AFL average. Same against Melbourne. AFL average is 100, right, for all forms of the game. 82, 75, 90. So well below AFL average. The last couple of weeks, they've been super aggressive, and it's almost straight line to goal. So when you see it, you think, gee, that's daring. I don't know if I've seen them be as aggressive by foot as what we're seeing at the moment. These sorts of kicks here, now they normally go long, down the line, wide. Look where they're going. So if they are able to mark the ball in a contested situation, like you're saying, Joey, then they're going to score. They're prepared to put into these sorts of areas, and even if the opposition win it, it's back into chaos, and that's the game they love. They love being able to win it back on the move. Look at this. They're the sorts of challenges they're putting to the competition now. So if the big dopey ruckman from the opposition want to set up down the line, this is what they can do to you. It's changed.
We aren't seeing a lot of this, are we? Aren't we? It's a lot of the 45 short that teams are doing. This is, are they being one out with this style?
Last couple of weeks, it's just worth just putting on the radar, and we're going to track it because sudden shifts like this catch the competition unawares. I don't know whether this is going to be the plan for the back half of the season. It's aggressive. So maybe they just think they're better than some teams in that facet, and they're going to take them on.
Or they're trialling it because they're in that stage of the ladder, and it's allowed them to, as you touch on, like, try a few things, see what works, see how it goes, and see what they can use in finals.
Be interesting to watch. Well done, Kingy. Tom Koning is going to continue to be a big story at Carlton too, because at the start of the season, fellas, he genuinely looked like not only one of the most exciting, but one of the most damaging players in the competition. But fair to say, in the past couple of weeks, he has fallen off a cliff a little bit. We know about the contract situation, but against Collingwood, he played more forward than he did in the ruck. Pitney was the main ruckman. He had 60 ruck contests versus Tom Koning's 30. So then he goes forward, he has 11 touches and kicks a point and sort of looks a bit fish out of water. So is Carlton using him correctly in this sort of role? And we know that they haven't got Harry Mackay at the moment. Or do you smell a rat on his contract? Is Carlton looking forward with this sort of situation? Are they going, right, if you're out, Tom, we're going to have a look at Pitney and whether he can handle the heat as the number one guy? Do you think think there's any of that in this? Is there any funny business going on?
Potentially, that would be a little bit of thinking in the back of their mind. If they think that Tom De Koning's leaving, you might as well look at pitting out and what it looks like. There is probably the element, I think the Kangaroos game against Cherry, they wanted the 2 rucks. I think with no Harry Mackay and some injuries, they needed Tom De Koning forward. But it wouldn't surprise me if they are starting to plan for next year, because that's what I said last week. Teams that can't play finals now need to do. You need to try and win now, but at the same time, have in the back of your mind how you're going to improve going forward and into next year. So makes sense.
How about he just plays better? How about he impacts the game? I mean, seriously, that's what we're talking about. You want to be a marquee player and get marquee money, you've got to perform, you've got to deliver.
Not doing that.
They're only there for 30 hit-outs because they haven't been up to standard. They've had to move him out of there and they've got a better option. But if he was flying in the middle...
You reckon he's going that poor with the pit nose more?
I think he's played 2 good games out of his last 12.
So is he worth 1 point? Do you doubt the 1.7?
No, absolutely he's not. Mate, no way. No way. There'd be a handful of players worth that sort of money. Do you have to pay to get him? That's a different discussion. But, gee whiz, the pressure on this kid next year, if he takes it, is going to be enormous.
The other one is Jacob Wiedering, who we know is one of the best key defenders in the competition. They were average behind the ball. In fact, they were poor against Collingwood behind the ball. And that's been the issue. At Carlton, they've had the efficiency issues in the first half of the season. Now these other issues are starting to bob up. It's like whack-a-mole there for Michael Voss at the moment. And Jacob Wiedering, he's ranked 164th in the competition, his lowest since his second season in 2017. So he's been a little bit all at sea. They've got Harry O'Farrell at the moment. We still believe he can be one of the best key defenders in the competition, because clearly at the moment, as the centrepiece of that back line, it's really declined.
Well, it's why Carlton are where they're at, that they're big guns, him, Cripps, Walsh, Curnow aren't absolutely top 20 in the competition in their roles. The next tier I spoke about last week haven't stepped up, and that's why they've found themselves where they are on the ladder.
Right, now let's have a look at a Gold Coast win over Essendon. Geez, this was a tight game for 3 quarters, and the young Bombers, there was a bit to like about them, but the Suns' 4th quarter, Kingy, was outstanding.
Well, the Bombers led by 3 points, 30-minute mark of the 3rd quarter. You thought, hang on, what's happening here? Could there be a big upset? And they had the best 4th quarter they've ever had since they've been in the AFL. Wow. Plus 38 points. It was unbelievable.
It's a statement.
It was exciting. It was a statement. It was, I think, just an indication to Damien Hardwick that they have grown up, that they have accepted that this is what they've got to be. They smashed them in inside 50s. 6 goals, 3 to 1 behind. It was unbelievable. So I think that we're seeing right before our eyes this football club become real.
It was a mature performance.
Yeah,
I thought it was really strong signs. Yep.
And the leaders were significant, were they? Particularly the captain, Noah Anderson. He's our BP Premium Performance of the weekend. He's the biggest off-Broadway superstar in football, this man, King.
Yeah, he is. And just have a look at this. I love footy IQ, right? Most players would blast this or try and run and get run down. I'd never see a forward handball of that. When was the last time you saw one of those? Could have got it back, didn't get it back. Humphries took the shot, and in the end it was actually called back. It hit the post, but it was a fantastic piece of play. He is in some serious form. It's his second half there. He's in line to be at least on the podium for the Brownlow. I don't know whether he can win it or not, Joey, but
he can win it.
He's in the fight.
He can win it, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and he's absolutely a lock for all Australian. And that was a sign they needed him. He knew at half-time, right, Essendon aren't going away. They're throwing punches here. I need to step up. Him and Rao were having a quiet first half. Miller was down. And that's a sign of it, not just a good player, but a good team, that they lifted when they needed and found a way.
What a performance as captain from Noah Anderson. What about Mac Andrew, Kingy? You coined him No Contact Mac earlier in the season. You still got a few concerns?
Well, he's Max-a-daisical now. He's very casual, the big man, and it's become a problem. I mean, we saw it a couple of weeks ago. I think it cost him the game with some of his off-the-ground stuff and just the refusal to, or the ability to be able to win a contest and stand up behind the ball. So this would have been on the radar for Damien Hardwick. This sort of play here. That's not what you want from a guy you've invested the big deal in, the big contract. You need him to be the reason you win, not the reason you get rolled. So we've shown this. We've been through this. Really casual stuff. That's not fight to the absolute death sort of stuff. And then on the weekend, this here, everyone sort of laughs and jokes about it. I think the days of laughing at this sort of stuff with Mac are over. It's harden up, get serious, or get him to the forward line and get Jed Walter down back. Try something different, because you can't live like this. You can't go into a final series with 50-50 defenders.
And does the big contract count in this, do you think?
Of course it does. Yeah, of course it does. I mean, again, you put your hand out, you put it up. So I'm looking at him as he's become a spoiler only. Like, where are the big intercept marks, the run and gun, the dare? It's not there at the moment. So they're missing a few pieces to become the complete product. He has to grow up.
If they're going to win in September, he's an important player from the Essendon perspective. Joey, Zac Merritt returned to the midfield and was emphatic.
Well, there's a lot of positives, and we've spoken a lot about the kids and they coming along, but I think one thing we found out from that game is leave Merritt and leave Durham as your two mids. But set and forget, and everyone else can work around them, not for them to work around everyone else. And they were brilliant, those two, on the weekend. And I think that, when they talk about where does Setterfield play, or Darcy Parish when he comes back, or, Jai Caldwell, there's talk about Hobbs and Perkins. No, forget about it. It's these two, and then work around everyone else, because they were unbelievable in this game. They had 67 disposals between them. This is where they sit for the season. I think next year that needs to be higher. They need to be 1 and 2. And then they can filter out 3, 4 and 5 and whoever that is, because they've got enough young talent coming through on the peripheries, but they've got to be there stable that go there, because they had 24 clearances between them. So the record was surprising. The most in a game is only 13, and both of them had 12 in the game. Contested possessions had 35, 16 score involvements. They were absolutely outstanding. Sam Durham's first half was brilliant.
Doesn't matter this year, though, does it? Didn't you write an article?
Well, it's Essendon's gap year. There's no expectations. Yeah. And I think the loss, the 40-point loss, was actually a win, because no one's expecting them to play finals. and Clark and some of these other young players. May was very good. Roberts back line. Yeah. They all took a step forward and look good. There's no expectations. They're just
so that's along. Okay then?
That's okay.
Let's set no expectations.
Barely
and
a murmur.
Got nothing to worry about.
The coach was re-signed for an extra year, and it was all good. I reckon Zac Merritt was making a bit of a statement to this performance.
Yeah.
He had 40 possessions. I think he was saying, don't move me out of the centre square.
Who would have thought Zac Merritt could be a really good midfielder? What a shock.
We'll find out from Brad Scott. He's a special guest on AFL 360 on Monday night. Right, Joey, a comfortable win for the GWS Giants in the West against West Coast, and Toby Greene was back to some of his...
Yeah, fun to watch Toby always. Had 3 goals, 4. Could have been a real big day. He set one up, but just a little nugget to keep an eye on. I still think he's their most important player come September, and this is why. So he had 10 score involvements. When he has 8 or more score involvements over the last 4 years, they've won almost 85% of games. They're 13 and zip over the last 2 years. So when he gets his hands on the footy and he makes stuff happen, they win. So I think keep an eye on him come September. I think he's gearing up and ready to go.
Got the magic touch for sure. West Coast, Harley Reed, you've been liking his form over the past month.
Yeah, I do. I think he's working really hard and trying to do the team first things, but they've got to treat him like Collingwood treat Dacos. So when you've got the opportunity, fatten it up with the 1-2s, get the ball out. Ryan's got to find him here. He is out. He is your prime option. I don't care what you're kicking to, it's not as good as handballing that to Harley Reed. I don't care if he's unopposed going forward. Same thing here. Harley's fighting hard for the team. Fight to keep him in the forward 50. Ryan gets it again. Pop handball. Give him a chance to then get to the outside. So
make it easy.
Make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just think these two, in particular, are not looking after each other. There's a couple where Harley doesn't give it to Liam, and I think there's an issue there they've got to get to the bottom of real quick, because you need to be able to wax a little bit to become the complete pairing in the middle of the ground. But make Harley your Dacos in the middle.
Make the most of him. It was a disappointing performance from West Coast.
Yeah, it was. And I just want to show just little bits of vision, because there's just tiny things going wrong that have large ramifications. They just don't know whether they're closing, whether they're holding, are they rolling in. So he's on Darcy Jones. Are you getting across the tackle? They're actually going to be able to do that? Are you actually going to be able to impact that? Or are you just coming off your logical opponent and letting him out goal side with his speed? It's over. So you've really done nothing in that play to affect the play. So this happens. I watched the game back on side vision and just slowly watch. Duggan here, your man's Bedford. Where are you going? What are you covering? Lateral to the stoppage, lateral to the drop zone. You're not really going for the crumb, and you're not really assisting in the air. McCarthy, young player, inexperienced. Same thing again here. You roll off. What are you covering? Where are you going? So it happens a lot when I watch the Eagles games. This here, Marriott, you got Greene. So you're sort of half covering him, half off. That's all right, because you're an aerial beast. So when that ball goes in, if you're going to fly, that's fine to leave him. But then they just have these lapses where they just roll and don't really do anything. So in the end, you allow your opponent to be vacant inside forward 50 and it's over. So I just think they've got to get through these teething problems really quickly and isolate what is your responsibility at this moment. If you're not sure, stick on your man. If you're not sure, go for the ball. Don't just loiter.
on Thursday night. It was the Bulldogs spoiling the Kangaroos' 100-year party. What did you make of the ruck battle, Key?
Yeah, I think we need to see Tim English get better at ruck contests than what we are right now. If they are to be an option in September, then he can't allow this to happen to him. It happened all night. Tristan Sherry grabbed the boy out of the ruck. We know it's one of Tristan's weapons, but it's also a real issue for Tim English. No other ruckman has had it happen more to him this year than Tim. So I think this is something they really need to jump on straight away, because it's almost a given clearance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's better teams than the Kangaroos when that ball's dumped forward to cater for that. You don't recover from losing those clearances.
Here's a big body, Tristan Cherry Wright. It's time for a short break.
We let our club down tonight. We want our supporters to be proud of us, and we didn't do that tonight.
We set a goal at the start of the year to qualify for the finals, and we can officially say that we got 14 wins and we do that. Not in our wildest dreams would we ever think we'd have that at this time of year.
So halfway through the third quarter, I think the game's pretty even, but the last 40 minutes they were just too good for us.
We need a scalp to finish high up on the ladder. We need scalps to finish high up on the ladder. We can't back away from that.
We'll learn lessons against every team we play. Sort of get sick of losing them when you're losing, but you have to, and we have to find a way to keep getting better.
All those teams above us are really strong teams, and so their best is also very, very good. Ultimately, if we're good enough, we'll make it. If we're not, we won't.
We didn't play particularly well, but we banked 4 points away. Everyone sort of makes the joke about my home ground here at Marvel, how much I love it and all that sort of stuff, but it was an important win.
We're not in a position where we need to make a decision between, accelerating the development of youth at the expense of others. We're picking our best team, and so that's how it happens at the moment that involves a lot of our youth.
Get off the emotional roller coaster and win life. So there's a bigger picture and there's a bigger aim, and we know that exists, and you've got to keep working to it. So if you get stuck, it's not the recession we had to have, right? Like Paul Keating said.
Some things to unpack in the game, but one of those games, I'm not sure too many are rushing home to watch the replay.
Now's the time to get going. Yeah. There'll be a lot of teams trying to do that, though.
Yeah. It's a bit sadder for me because it's my last game of coaching Sam, and he's been such a great player for me. It's really difficult when you have someone that you really care about. See that happen to him now for the second time on the other leg. I wish him a speedy recovery, and I know he'll be a great player for Port Adelaide.
They're one of the best teams in the comp, and we'll learn the reasons why they are so potent when they do go forward. And we'll just hope that we can fast-track our boys to get to where they're at.
You just can't pace yourself in this season, but you do need to put some thought into how you can get everyone up and going when it really counts. I mean, we're still a fair way from qualifying at the moment, but if you don't plan for it, you'll get caught out. So.
He was a happy man, Chris Scott, after a big win over Richmond down at the Cattery. Now it's time for Who Had a Crack, brought to you by Hahn. Great taste, low carb, how good. And Kingy, Zac Bailey, had an absolute clinic on Saturday night against Port Adelaide.
One of the best games I've seen him play, and he did it all. He did it at clearance, he did it at forward 50 stoppage, a bit of luck there, Joe, a little skip bounce over the top.
Meant it.
But have a look at this, the preparedness to threaten a hole, get through, true corridor. Like, this was as aggressive as I've seen Brisbane for a while. They just took the game right on, said, let's go. Are you up to containing us? Because we've got some firepower. He got forward. This is what I really liked about his game. His work rate was brilliant. We spoke to Lockie Neal post-match, and he said if he wants to be a top 5 player, he has to apply himself and continue to work hard. That is the rewards of a man that looks like he's doing the work. If he's able to go next level, they are stacked. So it's great to see him actually put a game together like that.
Now just try and get 80% of that more often than not, and imagine the year that he'd have. He's a special talent.
Could be a gun on baller at most clubs, but they are stacked at Brisbane. So he's doing it out there on a wing row. We mentioned the Cats. They did it easily, and Tom Atkins was at the heart of all of it, Joe.
Yeah, got to give him a shout out. He's an unheralded figure in the AFL. Not internally, they love him, but the other boys, the Dash brothers, get all the accolades. But I just thought there's a stat that stands out. So score launches. So that's basically when you win possession of the ball first, either from clearance or from an intercept. turning that into a score. So you exclude the ruckmen because they're at the top of the list because every hit out to advantage counts as a score launch. If you exclude the ruckmen and the couple of guys that get the kick-ins, these are the players that have turned winning the possession first, either from a tackle, spill, first possession or a clearance, into a score. Look at that list that he's above Tom Atkins. So it's a pretty special group, and I think he deserves a shout-out. He's a big reason why the Cats are humming.
Got him out of the VFL, got him for nothing. It was another free hit for the Cats, having a great season. Well done, Joey. Right, my favourite show on Fox Footy is the Midweek Tackle Team, 7:30 on Tuesday. It's where you get all your breaking stories with Lauren Wood and the crew. 7:30 Tuesday, Midweek Tackle.
The biggest story of the night is, of course, the biggest suspension of the season.
It's really important that this club gets going again and gets its mojo going because it's been a really tough 6 weeks.
My understanding is conversations have already been happening in and amongst the SCG Trust that never again.
There are no easy answers, no smoking gun right now, but you can leave any stone unturned. At some stage, you've got to find a solution, and they're not there yet.
Welcome back to First Crack. There's a ruckman revival going on across the competition. So in our seed segment, we thought we'd rank who we think are the best 5 ruckmen in the game at the moment. Kick us off, Joey. Who are the star big men?
Not as prominent as your top 50, but still pretty handy. I've got Tristan Sherry at number 1. I think now he's clearly the best big man in the comp this year. Luke Jackson has come with a rocket. He was a bit low in your top 50. He's at number 2. Max Gawn, wanted him there. He's just dropped down. Darcy Cameron having an underrated year. He's a star. And Brodie Grundy jumps into my top 5, as you said, last month.
Good 5.
Huge.
Well,
not bad. Bit of recency bias, I think, with Brodie. Jared Witt's perennially forgotten.
Forgotten man.
In all of your, it would never have even got a look in your top 50.
5th best ruckman in the comp.
I reckon he is.
Didn't even play
beaten
the
all of them.
weekend. Where's Grundy?
Had a rest.
Have you not? Grundy's
Grundy's had 4 good weeks. And you want to get all lovey-dovey. The rest are self-explanatory.
Yeah. Where's yours?
Here it is. Now, this is as it appeared in the top 50 a fortnight ago.
Tom DeConey, 2 good games in 12 weeks.
2 good games in 12
Jackson,
weeks.
did you have Tom DeConey? I haven't given up on Tom DeConey.
Where's Grundy? You've just been talking about Grundy all night.
He was stiff to miss.
You forgot,
This is how the
You didn't know.
I did. Darcy Cameron having an outstanding season. Joey, you've been
had an outstanding
You've been outstanding.
You've been
fantastic.
Don't say it's outstanding.
My name is Jay Clark. We'll see you on Wednesday night for the First Crack preview with Benny Dixon. Good night.